Back here in Kansas, the Kansas House passes a bill this week requiring abortion providers to ask patients additional questions about why they are seeking an abortion.
Those responses will be then reported to the state. Abortion rights opponents say its intent is to collect better data for the state about why women are seeking abortions. The bill would require providers to ask 11 additional questions of patients. That includes why they're seeking to terminate a pregnancy, if it's impacted by their financial, career, or relationship situation. Democrats in the House pushed back on the legislation given the August 2022 vote in Kansas affirming the right to abortion and the need.
Refuse, just like they can refuse today, to answer the questions to the report. This bill is not intended to harass or intimidate any abortion providers.
We do not go into everybody else's clinic appointments and have those intrusive questions then broadcast for public consumption. I am very, very concerned about this.
If the bill passes the Senate, it would likely be vetoed by Governor Laura Kelly.